Okay, we are live, and today I'm gonna have a chat with a colleague of mine. I'm gonna mute Tim here. Tim is a colleague of mine. um, he has been teaching for many, many years, and we've been friends for a while now. And so, what we're going to be discussing today is how the education kind of climate and world has evolved. Uh, there's a 36-year gap. So let me put him on here for you guys to see as well. Um,
And
say
you
hi.
look great. And you look great for 104. You really do. Yeah. Yeah. No. No.
Welcome. So I'll let you introduce yourself and talk about you're a vocal teacher, and we've met by both of us teaching. So we're and yeah. So hence the title. There's a 36-year gap. We've worked that out right before starting here, between when I was studying and when you were. So a lot has probably changed, I imagine, between those 36 years. Um, yeah. So
Well,
let's talk about that. What has
no,
changed?
absolutely.
And tell me about yourself first. Introduce yourself, your history with like your
Sure.
experience with music. What have you done? And yeah, highlights.
Well, my training has been primarily in the field of voice training or voice teaching, choral conducting,
Hmm.
musical theater, opera,
Hmm.
that world.
Hmm.
Um, and I think in some ways our experience in terms of our education, of us becoming the musicians we are today,
Hmm.
was, I'm going to say, rather old world, old school, old time. Even though, yes, there is 35 plus years of of aging between us. Um,
Uh-huh.
I have the sense from what you've told me about your education is it was seated in the notion that you would set yourself before a master teacher,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you would entrust yourself to that master teacher,
Hmm.
and they would groom you
Hmm.
into a particular kind of musician. Now, I'm assuming um, your violin education was classically based.
Yes.
I'm making that assumption.
Yeah, yeah, it
I don't.
was. It
I.
was.
I don't.
You can
Yeah.
literally just ask me. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was. Classical
And
trained. Yep.
for me, at that time in history, when you signed up for voice lessons, you basically went to a classical technique voice teacher.
Hmm.
I don't remember there being any option for anything else.
Hmm.
I don't think I looked in the, and yes, this will date me, the yellow pages. That's something that's found in a
Yeah,
phone
yeah.
book,
Uh-huh.
Fedor. You might remember a
Yes,
phone
I
book.
do. I do actually remember a phone book. Yes,
Yeah.
and we did
And the
own one.
pages were, yeah, the pages were actually yellow. They really were.
Yeah.
But I don't remember looking back there for voice teacher, and it said voice teacher for blues, country,
Hmm.
rock, pop.
Hmm.
So you learned basic classical voice technique.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and what I think was so interesting back then is I don't think you went into it with such a dominant mindset of the consumer.
Hmm.
I am here to buy I'm here to buy a product.
Hmm.
I'm here to buy a service,
Hmm. Hmm.
and and I'm gonna watch you like a hawk. And if I'm not getting what I want,
Yeah.
I'm I'm gonna check out.
Hmm.
Whereas literally it was a sense that because you had a goal in mind, there was a willingness to be vulnerable.
Hmm. Yeah. So back
And
then
basic
it was very like what is it? It was very like people had really specific expectations for what they wanted. But it's strange, right? It's strange to have very specific expectations for what you want when you're going into something that you don't understand, or you're going to a teacher, right? You don't understand the subject, let's say. So you go into a teacher and you're like, I have an exact expectation of how this is going to go, because what? Like, what do you even know about? You're going there to learn. Why do you have expectations? Would be my challenge, my initial challenge against that. And then I just want to say a few things. We got some people here. We got Hansi Music. That's the friend of mine who's actually he's a singer as well, and he studies singing, and he is also, I believe, a trumpet player. Plays trumpet as well, and he was
Mhm.
really looking forward to our talk. So he might have some questions that even I might not be able to come up with that might be interesting for you guys too. So whenever that comes up, I will might sidebar that. Fun guy, welcome, fun guy. Hello, and then Lizzie, hello. Also, we got a couple people watching, so yeah, great. Um, but yeah, that's the way I would challenge that. Is like if you're going into something that you don't know much about, and you're hiring a teacher to teach you, if something doesn't go the way you expect or the way you imagined it, um, why would you quit? Isn't that the whole point? Is that you're going in to gain new experiences and understanding of something that you don't understand? Otherwise, why would you even bother hiring a teacher in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And if I may do a
sure.
quick
Yeah, yeah.
little sidebar here, you've known me long enough to know that I can't go 5 minutes without creating an analogy. So
Oh, love it. Great.
it's just the nature of things.
Please.
My students get used to it,
Uh,
but I was just sitting here thinking, um, the notion that you started a journey
mhm,
to become a proficient, capable musician.
mhm,
Uh, it wasn't a short term. It was not going to be achieved in the short term. It was a process.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
just suddenly was thinking about one of the places that you hear me talk about all the time, Planet Fitness, in the sense that the reason they're so successful is that people buy subscriptions in the belief that buying a subscription will make them healthy,
Hmm.
but not that actually doing something is a really important part of actually
Hmm.
getting to that healthier state. I mean, imagine if you walked into Planet Fitness and you saw a wall of physical bodies and you just looked at this, like, I want that one.
Sure. I think people do that.
Well, maybe they do,
They
but
look and
the
see
po-
someone working out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, that's maybe an inspiration even for some people." I guess I don't know, but sure.
well, I will credit you that it can be inspiring, but that person is 6'4", and you're not six
Right.
four. I mean, I'm just going. At some point, you have to
Or six,
say,
seven. Okay, go
yeah,
ahead. There's a
"Take
meme
me,
that's been around.
t- take me as I am,
Hmm.
and fashion me into someone who is competent,
Uh-huh.
capable, knowledgeable, and basically it's going to serve me for a lifetime."
Hmm.
Now, that is a very different approach to uh, I don't have a lot of time and I need this done in 3 months, and can we start tomorrow? Uh,
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how we've gotten this addicted,
Hmm.
even though,
Yeah.
culture has taught us well to be addicted to things. I mean, I'm just going to say that.
Sure.
Um, quick and easy is not necessarily the pathway to musical proficiency.
Yeah, and for sure. Like now modern day now, the people want instantaneous satisfaction, where the efficiency of like we have so much technology now to grant us instant access to whatever we have on our mind. So if we're on our mind, we're like, oh, I have this thought that I want to do this now. The entire industry has been min maxing are us gaining that access as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. So that basically the latency between what thought might come up in our brain to what you know what is it, like latency from what happens in your brain to I want the reality to adjust and accommodate what happens in my brain to basically um, complement it in some way. That is across the board. And with art, one thing you've mentioned is that, and I think this, I did have some questions ready. One of them was that you mentioned when we chatted about how singing is a skill, not just something that it's a skill. And what is the things that maybe people forget that is that's part of the baggage when it comes to pursuing learning a skill, versus like how you the iPhone one, if you could tell that story, that'd be great. I think that was a great one.
Well, one of the things I run into time and again when I'm working with students that through the active voice training um, is how many of them are captivated by the thought that either they can or can't.
Hmm.
That the ability to be a good singer is either inborn or it's hopeless.
Hmm.
And to which I just have to shout into the cosmos and say, we have we have robbed people of so much opportunity of discovery because
Hmm.
it has so become almost calcified in their consciousness that, well, if I can't do anything I want to do vocally today, I'm clearly not meant to sing.
Yeah, I've definitely met people who are like, I just don't have the voice, or I just don't have those ears that people have. People are born with perfect pitch. Like, I wonder, actually, I'm curious, how much has that, because I know in old school, people are very, when people are teaching, old school style, they are very like, um, critical. They're like, oh, sorry, you just don't have the talent, you're just not worth my time, or you're just a hopeless case or something. I do think there was some teachers who did feel that way in the old school, or that harsh kind of like, hey, I'm just going to tell you the reality, or you have to have talent, otherwise it's just not worth your trouble. Versus like today, I think there's a lot more, hey, you want to try this out, sure, let's try it out. There's much more openness to people, anybody trying. There's less gatekeeping, I feel like, and that's for the best in some ways. But I wonder how much has that evolved to the old days versus today. Is that true? How is that true about how um, how strict teachers were and how much they cared about innate ability, or how quickly you might adapt in a lesson to what a teacher might ask you to do? That is really talent, right? I define talent as when you go in a lesson, if a teacher shows you something you've never done before, how much of it are you doing automatically? Like you try it and automatically tons of the work that maybe somebody else would have to do manually to get to this point, you already kind of were able to grasp it just by seeing the teacher do it and then do it yourself or something. Like how much left is there? The less there is left to do, that's the work to refine whatever you do automatically, the more talent you have that's making up that work for you for free. Um, yeah, that's
You
how I
bring
define
you
it. Yeah.
well, you bring up a extremely important point, which
Hmm.
is there is no way to deny that there is natural proclivity for some of this.
Hmm.
And where that comes from is a 15-hour conversation because there's so
Yeah.
many possible reasons for that.
Hmm.
But the
Yeah.
one thing that I do know for a fact, because some of my most enjoyable sessions I have these days are with people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s who
Hmm.
are coming to singing because literally when they were in elementary school, they were told they could hold the drum, but don't sing.
Hmm.
You can play the triangle, but only when I point to you. But don't sing. You're
Hmm.
not a singer. And they have carried that for literally half a century. And I
Wow.
can only tell you the truth. I have people who are now singing who were once told, you have to mouth the words. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, there was a time, and it's still with us. I'm not saying it's gone,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I think the emphasis was put on, if you can't, in this rather raw state that you're in, this really novice state of being a musician, if you can sort of wow us,
Hmm.
you're not gonna get the stamp of approval.
Yeah.
And you know, when you think about it, why do we assign this kind of measure to something that is learnable to a state of proficiency, and we don't make the similar kinds of exceptions when someone needs to learn to read, when someone needs to learn to
Yeah.
count numbers,
Hmm.
to, we don't make excuses there.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I've always wondered why, when it comes
Well.
to painting, to dancing, to acting, to singing, to playing an instrument.
Yep. Yep. And Hans is saying here, this is so sad from an education point standpoint. Yeah, it is. Absolutely, like you said here. It's what is Yeah, and that's the question of like, I think it used to be back in the day that writing was kind of considered like, or reading even was a skill that not everyone had. And it's, I think, I guess like with some things historically, if not everyone, at some point, not everyone had it and it was okay, it was normalized. It was like, oh, that's just normal that some people can read and write, some people can't. But then it became what caused that, right? I guess I'm curious what your thoughts on that. Like, what caused writing and reading becoming so much more normalized that everyone should do this, and then education system was like, well, we got to make sure everyone can do this, versus like, and then nowadays like music, right? Like, if you're in band or orchestra, those are all much more optional things in high school and just public school compared to like the STEM, the sciences and the technology, reading and writing and all that stuff, you know.
Well, you've heard me drone on about this, so I'll just keep going. Uh, yeah, I think
Sure.
it's because of the rise of the middle class
Hmm.
and the need for skills that would make it possible for them to gain presence in society, to be successful business owners, to be
Hmm.
successful, you know, shopkeepers. The
Hmm.
ability to work numbers and to work letters became
Sure.
an absolute necessity. The ability to sing does not mean you're going to be a good baker and run a successful bakery.
Hmm.
So we, and I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying those are not absolutely important skills that are very necessary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as those have risen, and the same thing could be true for STEM education today.
Hmm.
The import Is it important? Absolutely.
Hmm.
But in its, you know, rise of to a level of importance, we have, I think, suppressed other things, put it into other categories.
Hmm.
You might say the arts and education are now, you know, as a dietitian would say, something you put on the plate to make it, you know, visually appealing.
Hmm.
But you're not really going to eat the parsley, but it's pretty on the side.
Hmm. Right.
But what you really need is a potato and a piece of meat. So there's your reading, and there's your writing,
Hmm.
there's your maths.
But
And
why?
again,
Why is it that I have always thought this question. I am actually definitely curious to dive into this. It's like, why is STEM treated differently from uh from the arts? Back in the day, in the Athens times and the Greeks times, like in general, education was valued really, really highly, and people's there was so much more. I guess it felt like people were generally way more educated or way more interested in challenging themselves to be kind of like more thoughtful about everything they're doing. And the arts is a very high challenge for that, you know?
I'm going to take it back to economics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna actually quote something, and I hope it's from the right show. but in cabaret, money makes the world go round.
Mhm.
STEM education makes the world go round because money makes the world go round.
It's so much
And
more reliable, like income and like it's way more reliable for sure. Yeah, arts are the most dicey gamble in the world, and that's actually the I think part of the charm, right? The biggest charm of pursuing art is the gamble. You don't know, and whether a song you write or a performance you do is going to wow the audience, you don't really know, and it's because it's not science, it's art, and so then when you are I kind of lost my thought for a second, but um, oh, because it's like I when I think of like what excites me about art in general is the discovery. It's the exploration. It's the diving into the unknown. The exploration of I don't know what I'm gonna get when I do this. Let's
mhm.
see. Oh, what interesting. That discovery, that unknown and exploration. I think of like maybe like rock climbers that might go somewhere that is completely remote, no one's ever been. People who might explore the jungle, the man versus wild. Like watching that show when I grew up. Those are the things that excite me. That's the same, I'd say, a very similar parallel between that and pursuing art, of why bother with the challenge, why do it, what makes it, and that's, and it goes back to the same thing again with when you study with a teacher, you are going into the unknown, and if you're going to the unknown having an expectation, I mean, think about someone going into into a forest or into a jungle, and they're like complaining, oh my god, there's so many flies and bugs everywhere, get me out of this. It's like that's not really so you had an expectation that you weren't going to get bit by a bug in a jungle, um but then there's people who are okay with getting bit in the jungle, and that's the reason they're okay with it, and the reason they're pursuing it is the exact same reason that artists pursue art. The struggle
you
isn't
know,
the point, the payoff is the point, and the struggle is always is the friction that payoff gives you. The more friction, the more payoff, the more unknown it probably is, because the less people probably have gone through that trouble to find out what's on the other side.
after our last chat,
Yeah.
which every time we chat, my brain won't slow down for days. And I thank you for that because
Mhm.
as I represent the octogenarian class here, I'm grateful that you're keeping my brain very active. Uh, but I will say this:
Welcome to my
the
life.
the 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 diminishment of arts education
Yeah.
and the acceleration of education in fields that promote commerce, economics, wealth,
Hmm.
greed. Okay, uh,
Sure.
but I think there's also one other component here, and that is with the scientific revolution, with the Enlightenment, with all these wonderful things, and again, I'm not against them, but
Hmm.
you know, the the thirst to know, the thirst to know something empirically, to know something definitively. I
Hmm.
mean, think about it. Think about the growth of religions
Hmm.
post scientific revolution,
Hmm.
because all of a sudden we went from something being mystical
Yeah.
and we needed something to be absolute.
Interesting.
And see, I think journeys through the arts are all about not coming to maybe definitive answers, but
Hmm.
to ponder the unknown, to ponder the mysterious, to ponder
Hmm.
what is even possible, as opposed to 2 plus 2 is, and it is, I know it is, and that's important, but it's not. I don't think that summarizes all the human experience should be.
Yeah. I mean, business is about reliability. I had a actually, I definitely will link you this later, where I reacted to a video talking about is modern writing bad or something. Uh, okay, sorry, yeah, I was just looking at that. So like, is modern writing bad in like shows and things like that? And one of the things was that sparked me super into talking about how business. like the pursuit of like business success and the pursuit of art, what is successful to an artist and what is successful to a business person, those are a conflict of interest almost on every single thing, because a
Mm-hmm.
business person is optimizing for a reliable outcome, and they want to pursue and invest as much as possible into something that's going to get a predictable result, so that you can have a machine that you can then min max as much as possible. Whereas the min maxing of an artist is to min max your ability to intake things and then go somewhere that is unknown, so that your skills, your learning tools of the trade. And I know Hansi talks about tool. He always says that when you're learning music theory stuff and learning different things, you're learning tools that then you can use and apply um, to your writing and learning and things like that. So what you're doing as is like, as a survivalist might go into a jungle. They don't know what's on next step and where they're going to go, what creatures they're going to run into, or what dangers and risks they might be in. But they know that they have skills to deal with the things that they might not know are coming. So they are learning skills. That's what an artist is doing. Yes, exactly. Hansi says they can be prepared. They are preparing themselves for potential outcomes, but they do not want expected outcomes. They want unknown outcomes, but they want to also be apt at dealing with them. Yeah, so it's like business person is optimizing for reliability of outcomes. A artist is optimizing for their reception of information and things like that, and then being able to then better explore the unknown, being a better explorer, being a better think archaeologist, right? Why is an archaeologist pursuing what they're doing? Why would they learn all these things if what they might discover may not be something they already know? Like, I think that is a great parallel to look at, being like, how is the artistic pursuit reliable? What are the reliable elements of pursuing art? I guess that would be maybe a way to compel people into, yeah, see what is the reliable elements, what is the overlap between the reliability of art pursuit versus reliability of, like, say, sciences. I think that is the maybe the best starting point for kind of bridging people over. um you know yeah.
I want to segue back to something you said
Hmm.
about, how has music education changed
Yeah, that's our
over
big topic overall, sure.
over the generations. And one of the things I will say is this: in my half a century, in my half a century, I can tell you this: I have witnessed, especially elementary, middle school, and high school education, even college level education,
Hmm.
has fallen prey to the notion of, as you may have heard in your lifetime, teaching to the test.
Yes. Oh, I didn't
And
know that phrase, but I know what you mean. I think I know what it means. It means you're teaching just to get them over the bar for the test, not
mhm.
actually teaching them skills that would apply past the test and, in the pursuit, in the
and
yeah.
and I will tell you this anecdote as an example. I had a student uh, not that long ago who wanted to sing in the select choir at his school, and he brought in this sheet of all the things that was required to do the audition.
Hmm.
And I read through it, and I was actually somewhat impressed. I was like, wow, okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so we worked on it. We
Hmm.
worked on it. And I, I then later at a lesson, I said, I know you don't currently sing in the select choir. You sing in the anybody can be in the choir.
Sure, right.
Uh, so I got a question. How many of these skills on this sheet do you actively use on a daily basis in rehearsal?
Hmm.
None of them.
Yep.
None of them. I said, so he wants you to show that you are proficient in singing solfege, right?
Hmm.
And it was required in the audition. I
Hmm.
said, how often do you sing in solfege to learn your choir pieces? Oh, we never do. Well, how do you learn them? Someone just sits at the keyboard and plays it over and over and over and over and over.
Yep. Tutor.
Why? Why do you have an audition process? What is the point of even doing this? And see, that I think is a critical difference between how I was trained
Uh-huh.
and how I see training today. And I with my students, I really take them back to old school things. Like
Hmm.
I cannot pretend that they don't need skills.
So they're
I
so they're
cannot.
repeating over and over something that is for the test, or they're repeat. Can you re-explain that for a second? So
Oh, for example, if they need to learn the tenor line,
yeah,
they just hear it. So that someone plays it, they sing
yeah.
it back.
Hmm.
We'll we'll discover what percentage was correct, and then we'll do it again. We keep trying to get the percentage of correctness higher and higher.
Uh-huh. Right, rather than
But
teaching them the skills that would get their bottom line up. Yeah. The
yes,
bottom line.
but
It's all about the bottom line when you're learning skills, right?
but
That's what.
not yes, but not. I mean, it is a trip to a casino if there ever has been one, because it just
Okay,
comes
yeah,
down to
yeah,
something
yeah.
of a game of chance.
Yes. And I'll tell us. Okay. I gotta grab my dog for just a second. Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, you're welcome to read. I don't know if you can read it. Maybe you can't. Um, well, let me read you some of the chat here, and Hansi, maybe let me catch up just a little bit. Like one thing that talent gives you a head start, sure, but hard work just works really. Speaking from personal experience, the hard work really works. Yeah, it makes up. I think for me, makes up that difference. And then. Um, and then not use it, yeah, as an educator. Yeah. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay,
Give me 1 second.
take your time. Take care of Nico. It's very important.
Yes, I'll let Nico out. He likes the fresh air.
You got to keep
Uh,
Nico happy.
yes, yes. Um, let's see if I missed anything else. And I'm sorry, you guys, if I don't keep up with chat too much. Sometimes I want to let us kind of like maybe get through a question because initially I had a thought of doing this as a podcast where we would just talk and not go live, but I also don't want the live to just break the flow constantly whenever anyone says anything. So I will scroll up sometimes to catch up. um, Hansi did say something earlier. The singer heard an incredible tenor from Tosca as a substitute. um, let's see if you can elaborate on that, Hansi. That would be great. um, but yeah, if you have a question, maybe we can take a question from someone here in chat. If you guys have a question for Tim here.
One other thing, Fedor, that I
Yeah,
would say about teaching to the test in the context
yeah.
of music training, it's not that I've seen that in just in choral situations, but I've also seen it as it relates to um, this this pandemic of sorts. I'm being a little dramatic there, but
That's
this
fine.
this pandemic of sorts where every school on the planet now has to do a Broadway show.
Oh yeah.
They
Mm-hmm.
they all have to do one. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Whether they should or not is not even questioned, but they all have to do a Broadway show,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
therefore, even in that context, they're not really taught the skills to actually do it well or
Mm-hmm.
properly.
Mm-hmm.
They do it just to get it mounted so everyone can buy tickets and bring flowers and get a standing ovation.
I mean,
Which,
yeah, I mean, they are probably doing it for the parents, right? To make them feel like, oh, I get to see my kid do it. I mean, shows have been, the quality hasn't been the point at ever with school, like public school shows, I feel like. The point was that the parents get to see their kids do something cool and do the variety of different things and try things, and the pressure is always low. And I think that I will say the pressure being low for things like this is good because I think that if the pressure was high, in a way that would maybe deter people who are really younger. I think sometimes younger kids. I mean, I don't know. I could see the public schools kind of viewpoint on that a little bit. You know.
if I just push back just a little bit with
Sure.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I am not suggesting that these kind of large scale artistic investments in the lives of students aren't
Hmm.
important. I think they're very important,
Hmm.
and I have seen
It's how people are
some
prepared for them, right? That's the concern. Yes. Okay,
exactly.
because that's what we were literally
It's
talking about. Yeah. Yep.
and
Mhm.
otherwise
Yeah.
we basically get into a little bit of a situation that feels a little bit like a counterfeit.
Hmm.
Uh, it's like just because you did a just
Yeah.
because your school put on Les Mis
Hmm.
does not mean that you necessarily have learned the skills that will get you, further in the field of musical theater.
Yeah, and I imagine that definitely. Maybe we can table that for a second for later. But it's like then people might have a certain perception of where they're at with their skill because they're like, oh, I did this show or I did this thing, so I must be at the level that was required to do that show or thing. And so then when they go into
Bingo.
lesson, they might just be like, oh yeah, I have all these things. And then when you tell them you don't, they go, well, screw you. I did this show, and I know if I did it, I must have these skills. You're wrong. Goodbye. So I bet that might happen sometimes, right? um
Oh no, it does happen. It's happened to me. So no, you
yes.
just nailed it. That's exactly.
Hmm.
It's like there's too much. The chasm between what I've done and what
Hmm.
my skill levels are very different.
Yeah, and that's those things change differently. Just because you've done something doesn't mean you were proficient at it. Like proficiency, skills and proficiency are totally different parts of the chart. And I very much love talking to students about that because it's really important to consider, how many skills you have versus how proficient you are at each step of the way is a completely different conversation. So let me just catch up on. So Hansi had a question because I want to ask to see have some questions from chat here. So, question for here from the senior here in the chat. How has our scientific understanding of the voice changed your actual teaching? He says, because it has helped me so much shaping the sound I want, or my teacher wanted, the sound my teacher might have
I
wanted.
love this question because in the last 15 years, I basically have found the education I wish I had had. Ugh. It's hard to say this out loud. 50 years before, I really do wish because
Uh-huh.
I have gone through a host of things that have absolutely opened my eyes to what voice science research, anatomy, physiology, acoustics, uh, so many things that I have learned in the last 15 years that I like to describe to people as what I've learned is the grout that actually finished the mosaic. Like
Mhm.
I had all these pieces, but I didn't have a complete picture.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
finally, and I'm still learning every single
Yeah.
day, and I believe um, because I was trained in that old school vocal classical style where teacher, the mentor, coaches the apprentice.
Mhm.
You make a sound, they correct the sound. You make the sound, they correct the sound. I mean, is that gone out of style? No. Do I do that on occasion? You betcha. I mean,
Yeah. Sure.
it works. I mean, if you've got someone holding the violin wrong, you will probably reach out and fix it.
Yep. Yep.
You
Sure.
just won't talk them
You
through it.
need them
You
to
might just do it
experience the
physically.
way you need them to experience the way that you want them to learn proper technique, right? Of course.
Exactly.
They have to
But
experience it and then they're trying to replicate and memorize it over the between lessons or something.
but what I absolutely am convinced of as of 2026, and I don't think this is going to change, is so much of voice teaching
Hmm.
and voice training
Yeah.
in my lifetime was just that it just dwelt in the land of the mysterious.
Yeah.
And and and
Hmm.
it's almost like you had to seek the advice of some kind of master guru, you know, Gnostic philosopher to get you through a voice lesson
Hmm.
because they had special knowledge that they would pass on to you.
Hmm.
Now, I do believe in the master teacher. I mean, someone with years of experience do have a lot to give.
Yeah.
But what I learned was that I had been doing things for years and I couldn't tell you why I was doing them or how I was doing them. I was
Hmm.
meeting I was measuring up in my ability to reproduce a sound,
Hmm.
but don't ask me how because
Yeah.
I can't tell you because they didn't tell me.
Yeah. So I actually, that's a really interesting thing. We can tie back into talent and discussing that because I've had master classes that I've watched. And I love watching master classes because you learn so much. Because you don't have to be in the hot seat playing. You can just write and take notes during that. I think Nico wants to look outside. Do you want to look outside? Here you go. um, opening the window for him. But so one masterclass that was really I remember so vividly is I watched this. There was a I was at a summer camp and a summer music camp, and they would have guest artists come and teach masterclasses. Masterclass, by the way, for anybody who's not sure what we're talking about, is when you have a lesson, like usually you have a private lesson one-on-one, but this a masterclass would be a private lesson one-on-one, but on stage with an audience watching. So it's a public lesson, and that's what calls it master class because a master is teaching a class and you're kind of observing it. What was special about this one was the artist was incredibly good, very good violinist, and he was really fantastic player, fantastic player, really charming person as well. And when they did this master class, they would have the person play a segment, and they were like, okay. Um, and then they would tell them, hey, how about you try adding a little bit more phrasing or something, or give it this try. And then they showed it, and they were like, and then the student tried it, and they were like, just no, just try it again. Let me show you again. And so they had clearly like basically zero. They had some teaching experience maybe, but seemed like low teaching experience. And also, it was really clear that they were so amazing because 80 or 90% of the work was done by their talent. They were clearly an extremely talented person. Um, and so they didn't know how to explain what they were doing because they never had to figure out what they were doing because they were just doing it. So they were like, just do what I do. See if you can copy what I'm doing because I have no idea what I'm doing. It just works when I do it. So it was a really funny moment because I was like, yeah, like this like teaching is this is a perfect example of what is the teacher's skill? What is the teacher's value? The teacher's value is that they do understand what is happening. And there are artists out there who are fantastic performers. They have no idea most of the things they're doing because maybe they're extremely talented. They just picked it up. They just tried it and it just worked. And the teacher did exactly what you were talking about. They adjusted little things until they fixed all the small things that were missing that talent
Mm-hmm.
might have not given them, and that was the end of it. And they didn't learn anything about how to get those skills, how to explain those skills, how to work backwards from the end result to the basics, how to sort out what order you would learn those basics in. So which is my entire our entire careers, both of ours, is figuring that out. How once I gain a new step, how did I get that step, and is there a better way I could have approached that part of the journey, and recontextualizing the journey backwards, thing is like the entire thing. That's the entire value of a t-shirt. And just, yeah, but that was just really interesting, the whole like the unknown, the mystical. It's mystical to people who might have a lot of talent can kind of, so not having to deal with that, whereas like now with science, right, with like as a singer gaining that scientific advantage that explains some of the mysticalities, right, I guess, to tie it back in.
I can tell you from personal experience that when I went through this um, uh, upgrade of my teaching knowledge, which
Hmm.
upgrade is upgrade is I think too kind of a word. I think
Hmm.
when I look back, I'm really sad. I'm really
Hmm.
sad that I had been left in the dark as much as I was.
Hmm.
But then I started to piece the puzzle more completely together. And when I
Yeah.
would talk about it to other voice teachers, I got some very harsh responses. I mean,
Yeah.
some people just disowned me because it's almost like I had fallen prey to the introduction of too much science into the world of singing.
Well, because it does take away. It does, like, if they it was mystical when we didn't know. Now that we know, it's less mystical. I mean, this is the price of science, I guess, for sure.
But
And some
here's what
people
I
might be
can
very
say. Yeah.
sentimental about the mysticality of it. They might have kind
Oh,
of emotionally really care about that. They love that they know something that's special that they took a lot of work to figure out by like A/B testing it basically. With no science, they didn't have that
yes.
advantage. Yeah.
No. But I know for a fact now that when I weave the two together, which I
Hmm.
think I do in my teaching practice, is I can show people a much quicker and much more dependable route to getting to something because I what I basically say is, the first thing I just want you to know about your voice is that it really does know what to do
Hmm.
because of its design. That,
Nice.
as unartsy as it's going to sound for me to say this to you, it is a machine that functions according to the laws of physics.
Yeah, I think it would be not being in denial if we didn't say that. Quite literally.
but but after years and years of being trained as a singing musician
Yeah.
and never having heard the most basic things that I relate to my students today, uh,
Hmm.
I mean, it is quite a conundrum for me. And I had some marvelous teachers
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
who 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 I have all respect for. But the thing about teaching so often is we're basically just conduit, and we're just passing on what someone passed to us.
Hmm. Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't think my teachers ever learned about, you know, the pharyngeal constrictor walls or the hyoid bone or the lateral crico. I mean, I don't think they learned about any of that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Yep.
Or if they did, they learned about it in a pedagogy class that was one semester long
Hmm.
and felt like you were running a marathon the whole time because there was so much to get through and
Yeah.
no time to linger.
Yeah, because you have to get ready for that next test, for that next performance. Yeah, it's back to that. And I guess I'm just curious, just a well, I guess I might ask that in a second, but like the whole like how has the prepping for the test versus skills learning, how has that evolved? What would you say the line is with the graph over the years of that? Like more caring about the test versus not? Is it case by case per teacher? So that's something I want to ask in a second, but I just want to catch up on what Hansi's answers was. um, he when your initially answer question about the science, right, which we're talking about now, that would make sense, to be honest. My trumpet playing has helped me my breath support so much that the sound came naturally, and it came to vowels. Even things like legato were easier to get because of glottal control learning from trumpet, because they all did both.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense.
Hansi says, I always record my lessons. My teacher made me. uh, who's the elegant teacher? I don't remember the teacher's name um, from the masterclass, I don't think. Or maybe they meant something like you said, an elegant teacher. What, you had an elegant teacher? Did you mention something like that?
I don't think so, but
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. Who I'm interviewing? Oh, Timothy. Um, yeah. I mean, if yeah, you're out in I mean, whatever you want to share about yourself, I guess they're curious about you.
Oh, I live in the low desert of Southern California in the Coachella Valley,
Hmm.
where today it is a mild 105.
Maybe they can look you
May
up. I mean, maybe are you okay if I link you to the
Oh
people
yeah,
watching?
sure.
What should
Sure.
I link? You can type it in the private chat here. Maybe whatever your and you have a blog as well. We can also plug that at the end. Um, yeah, and I'm eating some breakfast, if you will. um, yeah, I'm so glad you guys have joined to watch. By the way, I really appreciate it. Um, keep the questions coming. I think Liz had a question as well. Can I get a few examples of those skills? Oh, they were asking about solfege. Solfege is the way we might name the notes when singing, so that you might not say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You might say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, because those are all ending on vowels, and
Hmm.
that allows you to continuously hold the letter, versus like A is like, la is, it's just la is where more natural, open, better for singing. Um,
And
yeah,
it's
which
also because solfege is also an important concept in the teaching of tonality because do is home tone,
yeah.
tonic.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
just about to ask ask about that actually. Um, because there's actually a quick short topic uh, of movable dough. So how do you feel about movable dough? Because I have a little bit of, I guess, frustration with that, because it's like movable dough is fantastic for keeping, I think, consistent the um, singing, so that when you are in a key, you could move keys and not have to rename all your notes. So like maybe the words and like vocabulary of what you're singing stays consistent. I can see that as an advantage, but I see everything else as a disadvantage, almost entirely to it. I don't know, because it's like movable do is so confusing to me, because then I have to name different pitches, because if I have perfect pitch, and I do have relative pitch, of course, too, but perfect pitch, it destroys. It is a nightmare to try to then, because I've memorized a sound to be named something. I now have to, and now that name is no longer reliable, because it might change depending on the context of what key or scale I'm in. Um, because this could
So
be
you
do, it could be la, it could be fa, and I even have a hard time doing that.
well my okay. Uh, I was not trained with solfege,
You are
so
not
I was not. Uh, I was trained to hear intervals by
relative
memorizing
pitch.
a whole list of crutch songs.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, uh, oh goodness.
Like mnemonics? Are you talking about like?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one here off the top of my head, and this is embarrassing. It's
That's
like,
all right.
"Here comes the bride," is a
Yeah.
perfect fourth. That's what I was taught,
Oh, okay.
which now I look back and I go, how was that practical? I'm singing a song and I need to sing a perfect fourth while I'm singing a Schubert Lied. I'm supposed to hear "Here Comes the Bride." I don't think that doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, it's a
So I was,
recall. You might recall a melody that's
you
really
might
familiar,
recall,
like you maybe
yeah.
"Happy Birthday to you," da da. So then you might think of like, how does that go, and then go, okay, I'm gonna now say words remote from that, and then I guess that would make it more remote, right? Because then solfege, if you have a movable do, then you are making it so you don't have to deal with a remote word versus note as much. So like that actually does help with interval learning, right? Because then your do so is always a fifth, versus B to F would be a tritone, let's say. So C T fa, but T fa do re mi fa, yeah, T fa. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's like a you're correlating. Are you correlating like interval names to the movable do? Does that affect things? I don't think it. I don't think it does. I guess it could, because you can't say
Mhm.
sharps and flats. Oh yeah, you can't even say sharps and flats because do re mi fa sol la ti. You're stuck. You're not gonna say do sharp. But like that just ruins the entire point of saying do.
But there are chromatic intervals. Do ti, do di, do di la li.
Oh, la li. There are versions
There
for
are
the. Oh, there are individual chromatic
solfege
quotient.
has chromatics.
I forgot
Numbers
about that.
don't. Uh,
Hmm.
I have used singing
Interesting.
with numbers uh, for a long time because I was not well situated in solfege. I've come to use solfege and learn it,
Yep.
but so my question to you is, Mr. Fixed Dough, uh, who got to choose C as being coming dough?
Good question. So I think I have done a lot of research on things. I have definitive and I think arguable objective arguments for why the diatonic scale, and specifically the Ionian mode of the diatonic scale, yes, why those two things are what they are. I don't think it's random. I have actual definitive proof of how I would defend. Um, my headphones died. How I would defend the scale being the way it is, why the black keys are where they are, why the sharps and stuff are there. Why is do the do and not something else be the do? Um, I think that I haven't done as much research on that, so I'm pretty close. But I am not close enough to answer that one. I don't have a objective argument for against why do is do, but I do have the argument that if you're memorizing what something sounds like and you name it, if you have to name it something else, if you have perfect pitch, I think that relative moving to do, it ruins the entire strategy, because the strategy is that I've memorized a frequency and I've named the
Mm-hmm.
frequency. So if I've named the frequency and now I have to name it something else, that 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 is incompatible with perfect pitch.
Well, as the poster child of just the mere mortal, I'm not a god like you. I don't have perfect pitch. So you
Perfect pitch
can
can be
sing.
learned. Perfect pitch
Uh,
can be learned. I've taught it and it does
well,
work.
well, I would love to learn it, but I don't.
Sure.
At this moment, I don't
Sure.
have it.
Yeah.
So therefore, I don't struggle with that dissonance
Yeah.
uh, between what you're saying and what you're hearing, because
Hmm.
to me, I don't have anything there. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talk about. I mean, we're talking about a skill so basic to music making, and yet I must tell you, sadly, that I rarely had a student during my last teaching gig at a school,
Hmm.
public school kids who came in who were very active in choir, very active in musical theater.
Hmm.
They do not have these skills.
Yeah. Which is
They
back
do
to the
not
whole
have
skill learning. It's back to that.
they they don't have the skills, and therefore they wonder why they don't sing in tune. They wonder why they miss intervals. They and I'm
Yeah.
and their solution is, well, just play it for me again.
Let me just try again. They're looking for the most it's back to the whole thing we've talked about with the four types of students. There, one of my designs is of how to like categorize students into different things. One of the student types is one that does not have any goals for proficiency of the instrument, whatever instrument it might be, including the vocal instrument. The voice is an instrument, right? And then but they don't have goals for proficiency on that, but they do have goals on what they want to be able to sing or play. And so that means that they're going to be looking for an optimized path which cuts as much fat as possible, so that you're only doing whatever would be the most optimal way to get to that specific result of that specific piece or whatever thing, or a test, right? So so that person, because they're like, well, I don't really care anything about anything other than the test, and I have no idea if I pass the test if I'll care about anything in the future. So um so yeah. So
And
that's
since
a
you brought
plain
it up,
example of someone being for a test. And so they might actually want a teacher who is going to prepare them for the test. But is that effective? That's a really good question. Is that really the best balance of teaching properly and getting and serving the client, right? Serving the student, let's say. Yeah.
I mean, you brought up your four type of student model,
Yep.
which uh,
I can even
has
show it
infect
for people.
has has infected my thought process dramatically.
Yep.
But when we talk about a student who has a goal but really doesn't have an interest in acquiring skill,
Hmm.
um,
That's pretty common too.
it's
That's
it
usually why
is
they go
pretty
in for the
common.
lesson. There are people who go in and they expect to get the result they're looking for, and they are hoping to negotiate learning as few skills as possible along the way, because they think the skills might, the payoff of the skill is something other than their goal. It might include things that aren't their goal. So they're like, well, why? There must be a way I could cut that out and improve the efficiency of my path to the. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, yeah.
Well, I was thinking in my world
Hmm.
of 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 helping people to improve their singing. If I have a student who really wants to sing a specific song,
Hmm.
and that generally means like the artist, but they really don't want to invest in any actual skill acquisition,
Hmm.
um, that is a really difficult puzzle to solve.
Yeah.
That is super hard,
Yep.
and I think at some point you're going to have to do the you're going to have to do the uncomfortable thing and say, are you willing to adjust your goal?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is the way forward, 100%. So from a lot of thinking about this, because I have found this to be a quite the um, perplexing question, because I'm like, I want to serve the student to the best of the goal of the desires of the student, but I also do not want to let down the student by teaching them in ways that would cut corners, that would upset them in the future if they continue to pursue this, because then they might continue to pursue this and then realize that I've taught things in a quick fix manner, and then they might get upset because they're like, well, why was I taught this way? Now I have to unlearn things and relearn things, and then they're like, and that's my frustration with how I was taught. In some ways there are frustrations where I was like, why was I taught this in this way? Why was this omitted when this would have completely recontextualized everything I was learning later and would have made things make way more sense? So much of the time when you're learning theory, you might be learning something, and you're like, I have no idea where this is going, and then a very long time later it might come full circle, and then you go, oh, finally, this was worth it. But
Mm-hmm.
so many people quit before you get there. So it's like, if your loop is taking so long to come around, that's when people quit. And I think that the quitting, also happens a lot because of that. There's so much turnout and people turnover of people leaving and coming. At where we were working, there was a lot of turnover. I feel like a lot of people might quit
Mm-hmm.
and come back, and so that was something that I found to be suboptimal. I wanted to find a way to optimize people continuing to engage, or at least being educated enough to know whether to be able to understand what kind of engagement they're doing. Um, so I would just set up my iPad, and I'm going to share that little bit of my writing for everyone to take a look here. So let's go to here. Let's see how this works. Hydrate, guys. Yes, indeed. So boom, I have this layout set up. Oh, did I drag this? Oh, was it the? Oh, it was this. Okay. Um, so I wrote here mastery. So when we're teaching two things. We're teaching mastery. I'm going to be quick through this, but mastery of the instrument and mastery of the repertoire. Those are the two things. Those are really categorically, I'd say, the two things we're teaching. We're teaching how to master the instrument you have, and then you are then also teaching the repertoire or whatever thing you might be doing with those skills. So you teach skills and then you apply skills for things. So the goals are the things you might do. Let's say like the Les Miserables performance at a school, and the mastery is the skills that you might need in order to be able to do the things in the goal. So one of the most difficult students I found, or the student it took me a lot of work to sort out how to approach the strategy of approaching teaching them, is the student that has a goal but has no interest in the mastery. So the ideal student wants both. They understand the volume of skills and they have goals of what they want to do. Then you might have students who want mastery, they want to play the instrument, but they don't really care about what they play. They're like, oh, just give me something. The student, you ask them, what do you want to play? They're like, well, I don't know. I heard that this book was good and there's saws in there or something. Like they're not really that invested in what they do playing wise. They just want to do the thing of playing. They just want to play. And usually, really, I enjoy letting them play in lessons a lot because that's the whole point. They want to play. Then you have somebody who might have neither. They're not really that interested in mastery. They might not have any idea of specific goals. Usually somebody who hasn't actually thought through much of what they're doing. They're like, well, the teacher will help me figure out the answers. I don't know even what questions to ask. I'm really just new to this and I don't have the answers yet. So maybe I'll have them later. Who knows? And so let's do something that might get me closer. So this is that one. And then the most perplexing one is they want to do things with the instrument, and the instrument is the vehicle for them to get to do that thing, but they are not interested in mastery. And so what's difficult about this is that you need skills to be able to reach goals, right? Of course. No matter what, there is a certain level of skill you will need in order to meet the goal. Now the question is so if they are, usually these people are very inflexible when it comes to the desire to not learn skills. They do not want to learn them, and they will quit if you start being like, well, let's do scales, let's do these basic things. And they're like, this is so far-fetched from what I am imagining the trajectory to my goal that I'm just going to drop it. I'll find someone else who better serves my needs. And so they quit. So they are inflexible here. But what I found is they are actually extremely flexible here. Their goal they're telling you that they really, really want, they're actually pretty flexible with it. And so it's much more better as a teacher to not tackle the mastery, but to actually tackle the goal and ask them what parts of the goal do they actually care about? Because you can have a song arrangement be very difficult because of the piece being very difficult. Queen of the Night, or I mean, let's take Les Miserables. You might have a song in there that might have things that sound, when you listen to it, sound really easy, but there might be something that is hidden in there that is a skill that it actually takes a lot of work to gain, that might be kind of required to sing the original version of that song. But then you might be, well, let's say that we simplify the rhythm, or we simplify or we change the key. Are you attached to the key the piece is in? Do you have to sing in the key that's the original key? If not, let's move it to a place where maybe you don't have to sing in a range that is outside your range, let's say for your voice. So then great. Now the goal requires less mastery because the goal is now moved. Now you need less mastery to reach your goal. So this is the way you do it. The way you do it, my consensus right now is on this is that the way you do it is you keep cutting things from the goal so that it requires as little mastery as possible to get to the goal. And then once you hit rock bottom with digging there, then you talk to them about the mastery and you say, okay, now that we've established what is the minimum requirement of what are the minimum parameters of the goal that would satisfy you reaching the goal and being like, yes, I've actually reached the goal. I haven't reached this like amorphic thing that just isn't really what I wanted. Like, are you going to be satisfied after you've reached the goal in this way, right? Or in this version? Then you go, okay, these are the skills that you will have to have in order to be able to reach this goal. And we have already debated, like I've clearly talked to you about the goal and all these things that I care about it. And like, hey, you know, let's discuss the goal in really close detail. Then they'll trust you as well. They'll trust you that you actually do care about them reaching their goal because you've asked all these questions and you've really nailed down on exactly what the goal looks like. And you're also serving their goal of reducing the mastery required to get to their goal. But the way you're doing it is not by teaching them skills. You're doing it by cutting away the requirements, and that is actually in the same. I think that is in the same camp of what they are thinking. They're thinking, how do I reach the goal that makes me feel like I've reached the goal with as little mastery as needed? But this particular way of doing it, then you're only going to teach them the skills that they need, and you're not going to waste time teaching them the skills that they don't care about so that you guys are on the same page. And also it makes it so that when you are teaching the skills, you only are teaching the very, very essential ones that you need, and so they will trust you to teach those. So then you can have the integrity of teaching skills properly, but then not feeling like you need to teach them a million things to just do this tiny little goal thing that they have in mind because of just the way that they want that goal to be accomplished. That's been my basically. I think this just not to go over everything, but just to go over that particular type of student. So that's basically where I'm at with that. Yeah.
All I can do is applaud because it's spot on. I mean, it's so obvious, and yet, and I was just sitting here listening to you say that and thinking of all of the recitals that I've sat through where the 5, the 6, the 7-year old gets up at the piano and plays the
Mm-hmm.
most reduced version of Ode to Joy imaginable,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is fine
Yes,
in
it is
that
fine.
moment. That's perfectly fine. Uh, but I do find, if I can just make this one comment about the vocal world,
Yes.
I don't think I see. I mean, what you just suggested about keep focusing on how can we pare down the goal because of what you claim to be your mastery threshold.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I just don't see I just don't see enough voice trainers, voice teachers working with this model because I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be so wise to do that. Because I am faced all the time with people wanting to sing things that are beyond their skill level
Yep.
because it's popular. Like,
Yep. Yep.
how many times have someone come to me wanting to sing, you know, Let It Go or
Yeah.
Defying Gravity or
Yes.
little tiny kids wanting to sing Tomorrow from Annie.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, well, she's a little girl. I'm a little girl. I guess I can sing that. And I'm like, let's look at the score. Let's look at where
Uh-huh.
these notes are literally living in the vocal range.
Yep.
What is required here?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
They have no idea. That's why they're asking for that goal. They have no way of measuring whether their goal is absurd or not. It could be
yeah.
absurd. It could be completely reasonable. I've had students on the other end. I've had students who are like, "Oh, I could never play this piece of music," and I'm like, "You can easily play this." And they're like, "No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 no. I've heard that this piece is so difficult, it's so complex, and so," and they have this idea that this piece is just too hard. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's the thing that you can have it even the other way too. Yeah, the students in general are very, very there's no way you can expect a student to be able to tell whether their request or goal is reasonable. That is what you're there for. That when I teach like this. I go, what is your goal? Tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you if you're ready. Your role is to tell me what you want because I don't know what you want. You are the one expert on what you want to do. I am the expert on what is reasonable for you to do at this point in time in your learning journey. I am the one who decides whether something is a reasonable is a good idea for you to be trying to actually learn right now. You are the expert on telling me what are you going to actually enjoy doing, what are you actually going to bother practicing. what is going to be emotionally engaging for you. I am not the expert on that. You are the expert on that. But let me be the expert on whether you're ready to do something or not. I
Mm.
think that is one of the earliest times when I've set a boundary with students, or set a rule, I guess, with students. One of the first few the rules that I felt really strongly about, because I am very reluctant. I feel like I want to be very accommodating as a teacher. So I am very reluctant to set hard rules because they, of course, are innately not accommodating. Now the student must accommodate me, but I want that accommodation to be in their best interest. And that was the one of the first ideas that I had established when I teach. Yeah.
Well, that is a very old school approach right there, and
Hmm.
it's time
Really?
for it's time for a comeback,
Yeah.
because the music teacher needs to be viewed as the authority.
Well, I would say that old school was also like, I know what the next piece should be for you, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to learn next. I don't think they really cared very much about, especially considering that it was only classical, like when you're saying the yellow books, right? Like they were like, hey, I'm an authority also on what pieces you're going to be learning in what order as well.
What I was referring to was your statement that basically you were going to set strong boundaries
Hmm.
about you are ready for this or you are not ready for this,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not just keep maybe, you know, boosting them up and petting their head and making them
Hmm.
think, oh sure, you can,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
you can sing Nessun Dorma, of course you can. No, you can't. You
Hmm.
really can't.
Uh-huh.
And and at some point we can only lower the key so far, and it's not going to sound like that anymore.
Hansi says I can't. He says he can't.
I mean, that is one of the things about I think in the world of the voice,
Yeah.
um, and what people want to sing. Like people want to sing Defying Gravity because they want to have those last three bars, you know. And you're like, well, we can lower the key,
Oh, it's
and
the
it's
Defy Gravity from Wicked, right? That da da da
yeah,
da da
yeah,
da. Defy
yeah,
Gravity. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, okay, well, yeah, we can take the key down. It's because you don't really want to work on your belting technique, right? Is that what you're saying? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, that's clear. Then
Right.
we're going to have to
Exactly.
lower this key for you
Yes.
to sing through the
We are going to
song, or
have to move the goal so that there is less mastery required to meet it.
which is like saying, I want to order, a Thai curry, and I want it at a 8 out of 10 heat, and you're saying, well, no, you can't handle that. You're going to get a 3 out of 10.
Hmm.
Well, that's not the same experience. And I said, well, no, it's not.
Yeah, but
It's not going to be this.
you have to negotiate between the goal and how much, I guess, like definition of version define how high resolution the goal is going to be, and then the more resolution you want, the more mastery you will need. That is by definition. I think anyone would agree with that, even the most toughest, maybe walnut nuts of students who are just maybe not, yeah, who are not willing to entertain different things. I think even they would agree that the higher definition role, I mean, they'd be like, oh yeah, of course, higher detail performance of quality is going to come from someone who's more expert, skilled, and that would
Well,
maybe a way in as well with those people.
and everything you're commenting on, regarding the table and this model of teaching, which
Hmm.
more people need to know about, is your job is really to counsel people to discern what they want and how to get there,
Hmm.
and not just be a service provider.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I ordered I ordered this and this is not what I got. And I'm like,
Yeah, the
well,
iPhone. Tell the iPhone thing. What was it again that we talked about?
Now I can't even remember it. It
I
was
think it
just
was.
like,
It's like when you're shopping for a teacher or like the when you're trying to gain the skill of singing, you're not. It's not that you're going to an Apple store and looking for and you're like saying, oh, I didn't get the exact color of this case for my iPhone that I wanted. It's
yeah.
you're not shopping for a case for the color specific type of case for your iPhone. You are learning a skill. I think was something you basically said. Yeah.
I wanted it pink and I wanted it bedazzled, and I didn't get either. So I'm really upset with you, and I'm like,
Pleasantly surprised is one of my favorite terms. I love the term pleasantly surprised. I use that when like I have people who might want to learn online who can't learn in person with me. We're out of range. And maybe they're like apprehensive about online learning. And I'm like, well, I found that a lot of people are pleasantly surprised when they try it out. And I think that type of language invitation as well is really nice because it's like you could be because being pleasantly surprised is a nice feeling when you're like not sure
mm-hmm,
what's going to happen and then you're pleasantly surprised. That's great. And that's actually the entire, I feel, going back to the whole music career, like pursuit of music, that is the goal. You are mining for the pleasant surprises along the way. That is the point, because there are really a lot of pleasant surprises I have found along the way of pursuing music. It is
mm-hmm,
fantastic. It is so worth it. I think music has to be art in general, but also especially for me, I think music. Maybe I'm biased, but it is the pleasant surprises you get out of that are some of the most saturated, some of the most just absolutely like mind-blowing experiences. Those are just absolutely over. It's drugs. It is on the level of drugs for me. I feel like I am on drugs when I have an epiphany or when I've discovered something and I'm analyzing someone's music and I find something just incredibly clever that they might have done that makes the music pop the way it does, and feel the way it does. Those moments are just so powerful and so emotionally charged. And no downsides. Drugs have downsides. No downsides of this. Yeah. So yeah. So that's my campaigning for hey, go try music. If you don't know what you're doing, um, this is what you should. This is the outlook that I think is most healthy, and I think it's the outlook that is going to lead to the most reliable results. You should be expecting unexpected things to happen, and some of them will be pleasant. And the pleasant ones are really worth it. And I think that is the best way to look at it if you are interested in art and you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. That's perfect, because if you want to, because that means everything you're going to discover and learn is going to be a surprise, and those surprises are the entire career. That is the entire point. If you enjoy the surprise, you will be really satisfied. And I have not I have not hit bedrock after digging for over 20 years now, I guess. After digging for over 20,
mm-hmm.
20 years, I still have not run out of things to experience and new surprising things about music to learn, which is phenomenal. That is the feature. That is the main feature of music.
I think another thing that
Yeah.
you bring up that's very important to note is that the average person seeking lessons probably is very unclear about what they really want.
Hmm. That's why you
I
got to
think I
ask
think
them the goals,
yeah,
right? You got to
yeah.
ask them specifics, because we can assume so much. How I view a goal as a musician today is it has evolved so much. How much has it evolved for you
Oh,
over these years? Like your perception
yes.
of the arts and music and singing and what your goals are, what you care about, isn't that constantly changing? It's literally constantly changing. So the
It
teacher
sure
has to
is.
keep up with this. Maybe on the first lesson they had this goal, and I actually do this now more. I check in with my students. I'm like, hey, is this still your goal? Do you still care about this, or have you changed your mind? Have your feelings changed? Like, and I think that's another part of like expecting students to always be in your studio or maybe take breaks. I think taking breaks is normal. You might take a break. You might be like, hey, I'm not really feeling it now. I might come back, and then they might come back. And I've had students come back and come in, and I think giving them making them feel like they should be listening to how they feel when they are learning, I think that is also going to get more real and genuine results on when you ask them what their goal is and what they want to do. You're going to get actual answers, not them trying to be like, oh, I'm trying to accommodate what the teacher wants to hear from me say, or what is the right thing to do next. Like, I think that that is also something that sometimes you have to break that in with the student. You have to get them to, I'll ask even students like, hey, tell me what your Spotify playlist is. What do you listen on Spotify? I've even thought about maybe I should even require people to give me their Spotify account so I can literally just look through what they listen to, because
Mm-hmm.
then I'll actually get their answers on what they care about when it comes to listening. Now, of course, with consent, but I do feel like that should be. I almost wonder how much of a rule that should be. Be like, hey, I'm not going to teach you unless I know what you actually listen to and care about. Like, I need to know what you care about. Let me go check on my dog, but
Okay.
here, maybe I can, hold on. I'm going to share this. Window. There we go. Can you read that? That's the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, there's one. This was another question from earlier, a little bit earlier, like about
Mm-hmm.
a while back, but I wanted to make sure we get to this one too, Hans's question.
When you started teaching, was classical canon simply assumed as the foundation? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. At what point did you notice that assumption being questioned? I'm pretty much free to choose my own pieces at this point as long as they make sense for the current development of my voice. Uh, when I think about my voice training education, one of the things that saddens me some is that um, I wish that my training had been more embracing to other styles of singing. I often say to students, my vocal training experience would be like me presenting a potter a block of clay, and they make it into a very specific item, uh, in both of its function and design, its aesthetic. It's all going towards one goal. And so my whole experience of how the voice works is all shaped by that aesthetic, and I'm going to use the word bias. Classical voice has had a monopoly over the world of singing and the teaching of singing for hundreds of years. Um, and I'm a recipient, I mean, I received that. I'm part of that legacy, and I don't regret it. But I do wish that I had not faced maybe the level of snobbery that came with that type of training, because it really did a great job at convincing the world that classical training was the only proper training, was the only healthy training, was the only proper training, whatever. And the fact is, that was an exaggeration. Um, there are lots of ways of singing that are healthy and viable. There are ways of singing that are more risky, and therefore um, concern for vocal health and safety is very much or should be very much on the mind of the singer. But you go into it with knowledge, you go into it with understanding, you accept the risk. I mean, operatic singing is riskier than folk singing. Heavy metal singing is riskier than sort of cool jazz singing in a dive. I mean, there are some things that just put the mechanism at a higher level of demand, risk. I think the singer's understanding about what it is they are wanting to do and how to do it so that you create a proper equilibrium in the body, a proper function that's not, shall I like to say, you're not seeing the needle going into the red zone. Um, that's
Hmm.
what I wish my singing education had welcomed me into was
I'm back. Yeah.
welcome back,
Hmm.
a much a much more embracing approach to singing, so that I would have felt throughout my career that I was allowed to sing in various vocal qualities and various different styles and genres. Uh, and, I don't know that I'm going to make my debut as, the
Hmm.
lead singer in a Kiss cover band. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, but I try to encourage my students to become knowledgeable about how the voice works so that they can make as many different choices as they might want to make in terms of how they sing, what they sing, where they sing. Now, that
Hmm.
being said, I probably will gravitate towards certain things and they may become more favorites. Um, but I have certainly known people who can sing rock and opera at the same time. It's it's
Rock opera.
because they no, no well by necessity they could do both,
Yes.
but they literally. I mean, I happen to know for a fact because I heard this with my own ears in a conversation or an interview, I should say.
Hmm.
Uh, when Renee Fleming was going through grad school, she sang in a jazz club on the weekends. So there's an example of someone who knew her voice well enough to know that she could do a variety of things, but clearly she did gravitate in one direction, and it's paid off quite handsomely for her.
Hmm.
But I think I think instrument training of all types probably should do a better job at training the student with the tools that allows them to engage with a variety of musical styles.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the biggest things for me with music theory teaching and my pursuit right now of writing my own theory textbook, like a music theory textbook, that is not attached to genre. That is, of course, going to be based in Western theory because Western theory is such a prominent part of our analysis of how sound and music works, but not the parts that are just like, well, if you want to write in a Western style, here's how you write in a Western style, and here's the tools you use. No, just the tools pertaining to music itself that could be applied to any genre, could be found and analyzed using that, looking for that tool being used in any genre. And so that's one of my biggest, yeah, is generalizing the skills. When you learn a skill, I want that skill to be applicable to whatever you wish to use it for, not a tool that is only relevant within the genre that maybe it was created in. Yes, a lot of theory was created in Western music, the classical genre, right? But it may work in the classical genre, but some of it is taught as if it's just normal theory, but it is only really relevant to how people wrote historically in the classical genre, but it is not useful to somebody who might want to compose in a genre that isn't the classical genre. And I find that frustrating that there is not a clear line or some kind of defining of which things are high level, like, just foundational things about music, and which things are just a lesson about history of what people did with those tools historically in whatever music genres. And I want that line to be way clearer, and that's why my magnus opus is the theory textbook that will will highlight this.
Well, for a future discussion, you should just throw out the topic of the presence of bias in music.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's a huge
We're
one.
basically kind of like a B plot here is the biases that people might have. Yeah, totally. Um, let,
Maestro, I am running out of battery, and not electric, brain
oh
battery.
really? Oh,
I'm gonna need to step out, but
okay.
I will love to have conversations as often as I've got the battery to run.
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let me
And
just
you
read
can
off Hansi's
continue on.
response. Sure. And if you want to watch as we go, we're going to continue live. I can give you the link. If you want to just type, you can also type, which is what the other people here are doing, to kind of participate. Let me just read what Hansi wrote back to you as you were talking. Um, I do study as a classical tenor in Hanover. Um, so that's Hansi talking. But I am allowed to choose the repertoire through Baroque to contemporary, though currently mainly being operatic. It is straining for the mechanism. If the singer doesn't understand, it isn't taught in that way, it will always not just affect the outcome, but also the future of the career. Yes, of course, you have to. The proper
Hmm.
technique is important if you want to be like heavy metal or something screamo stuff. If you don't use the right technique, you'll just lose your voice. It'll just be over. Yeah. Thank you for the insight. I love Kiss, but I understand that fully operatic metal is a thing. It is
Hmm.
lovely. So yeah, capture sound on paper of any genre. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um,
This has been an honor,
yeah,
and I've learned a lot. And
it's great having
I
you.
will. It's just great to understand that these crazy thoughts I have, other people have them,
Hmm.
and you even have crazier thoughts than I do, which is wonderful. And I hope you keep having them because
Yeah.
it's nice to be it's nice to be understood.
Oh yeah. Music is a language, communication, understand each other. Yeah, yeah. We're communicating our emotional experience through this language. Yeah. Yep.
All
Yep.
right,
Super
everybody,
on board.
thank you for listening. Thank you, Fedor,
Yes. Thank you for coming.
and
Thank you for
we'll talk
joining.
soon.
Let's do it again.
All
I hope
right,
so.
all
Take
right, we
care.
will.
Bye, Tim.
Bye bye.